Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I love it when you send us things to check out. And, this one is really cool. It's all about whether dogs actually apologize or not.
Mm,
And I think a lot of us as dog owners, we think they do,
yeah.
but do they really? So this YouTube video called How Dogs Say Sorry really got me thinking because they do all these things like, they give us the puppy dog eyes. They bring us a toy after they've done something naughty.
Right.
Is it truly remorse? Are they master manipulators? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a question I get a lot actually. And I think it's really easy to kind of project our own feelings of guilt onto our dogs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But what's really interesting is that while dogs are absolutely incredible at reading our emotions,
Yes.
they they don't necessarily experience guilt in the same way that we do,
That's so interesting because, sometimes I think my dog is more in tune with my emotions than I am.
you know? It's like if I've had a bad day or I'm feeling stressed, he just seems to know and he'll come and like cuddle up with me or he'll just kind of sit there quietly by my side. Whereas my partner maybe totally misses it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the amazing things about dogs, right? They are so tuned into us, but it's more about them sensing our emotional state
Okay.
rather than understanding, you know, the complex kind of moral reasoning behind why we might be feeling guilty.
So it's not like they're sitting there thinking, oh, I shouldn't have chewed up that shoe. I feel so bad now. It's
Right.
more like, oh, my human is making these sounds and looking at me in this way. I better do something to kind of diffuse this situation.
Exactly, and that's what the video talks about, these appeasement behaviors that dogs use to de-escalate tension and
Uh-huh.
kind of restore harmony.
Right.
And that's really about, maintaining that social balance within their pack.
Which we are part of their pack, I guess.
Exactly. We're part of that pack and that connection is absolutely vital to them. So are those classic apology moves like bringing a toy or nudging your hand or like you said giving you the sad puppy dog eyes, is that are those really just like sophisticated ways of being like, "Hey human, I know you're mad, but let's just get back to a good place."
I think manipulating might be a bit of a strong word,
Okay.
but it is their way of saying, hey, things are a bit off. Let's get back to being good.
I mean, and it works. Like who can stay mad at a dog who's like bringing you their favorite toy with those big eyes?
Exactly. They know how to push our
You
buttons.
do. They do. I think my dog has me totally trained.
Well, and it's interesting because the video shows some really specific examples of this, like the gentle leaning, placing a paw. It's almost like they're seeking reassurance, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, it's okay. We're still good. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's that trust building. It's that reinforcing the bond, even though there's been, a little bump in the road.
So how should we react then? Because part of me wants to be like, no, you chewed the shoe. No cuddles for you. Like tough love.
Yeah.
But that seems harsh if they really are trying to make amends in their own way.
Yeah, and ignoring them completely can actually backfire because
Mhm.
it can create more confusion and stress for the dog.
Right.
Imagine trying to apologize to someone and they just completely shut you down.
Yeah, not a good feeling.
So the videos suggest responding calmly, maybe a gentle pet or a reassuring tone of voice, just to acknowledge their effort.
Okay, acknowledge, but not necessarily give in. So no showering them with treats immediately after they've, you know, shredded the sofa cushions.
Right, timing is really important.
Oh, okay.
You want to reward good behavior, not the misbehavior itself. So,
Uh-huh.
let things settle a bit and then reward calmness.
Got it.
And then the other piece of this is consistency.
Oh, yeah, consistency with dogs is so important. It's like having a toddler.
Exactly. If
That-
jumping on the couch is a no-no, it's always a no-no. Puppy dog eyes or not.
Yeah, that's tough, though, because those eyes are powerful.
Hmm.
But I get it. It helps them to understand the rules, which ultimately makes everyone happier.
Exactly. Now, we've talked a lot about dogs, apologizing to us, but what about apologies between
Oh,
dogs?
that's interesting.
That's where things get really intriguing, I think, because their communication is so much more nuanced than we often realize.
Yeah, like that classic image of a dog rolling over to expose its belly. Like, is that always submission?
Not necessarily. It could be a way of de-escalating a tense situation, like, hey, I'm not a threat, let's just chill out. But the video really highlights how actions like bowing, licking, even growling can have multiple meanings depending on the context.
Wow.
So it's less about, assuming they feel sorry in the way that we do,
Okay.
and more about understanding canine social dynamics.
So how do we even begin to like decode this complex language of barks and wags and, all these subtle body postures?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's something that I think we all, as dog owners, constantly trying to figure out, like, how do we learn to speak dog?
Yeah, because I thought I knew my pup pretty well, but now I'm realizing there's this whole layer of communication I've totally been missing.
And that's where the real fun begins, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like unlocking a secret code when you start to learn to interpret those subtle cues, like the way their ears perk up or the direction of their gaze, even the tension in their muscles.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So the next time your dog does something you know that they shouldn't, instead of jumping to conclusions, maybe take a step back and really observe what they're trying to tell you.
That's a good point because we do tend to project our own human emotions and thoughts onto them a lot.
We do, and that's where I think we can miss out on, the richness and the complexity of their communication.
I'm already starting to see my dog in a whole new light, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Right. We've got a lot more to explore.
We do. So let's dive into that next. Let's talk about how we can start to decipher those signals and respond in a way that really strengthens that bond with our furry friends.
I'm excited to talk about that.
Me too.
It's like you said, learning to speak dog is kind of like cracking a code, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And this video, I think, does a great job of highlighting just how nuanced their communication really is.
Oh, for sure.
Like even something as seemingly simple as a growl can have a whole range of meanings.
Yeah, I used to think a growl always meant like back off danger.
Right.
But this video was talking about like playful growls, warning growls.
Mhm.
Like it's a lot more to it than I realized.
Absolutely. And that's where, understanding body language is key.
Okay.
So the video shows how, a playful growl might come with a loose, wiggly body, maybe a play bow,
Oh, yeah.
whereas a warning growl is going to be accompanied by stiff posture, a direct stare, maybe even those hackles raised up on their back.
Okay, so it's all about the context.
Or
Like if my dog growls while we're playing tug of war and he's all bouncy and wagging his tail, that's totally different from, if a stranger approaches and he's got a low growl and a tense body.
Exactly. You got it. It's about looking at the whole picture, not just focusing on one signal.
Sure.
And the video even talks about how, the tone and the volume of the growl can give you clues.
Oh, right.
So a playful growl might be higher pitched and almost musical,
Okay.
whereas a serious growl is going to be deep and guttural.
Oh, wow. So it's like how we use our voices.
Mm.
We might use a light teasing tone with friends,
Yeah,
but a firm, serious tone if we're setting a boundary or, something like that.
that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like we use more than just our words to communicate. Dogs have this whole arsenal of signals.
Right.
Tail wags, ear position,
Yeah.
lip licking, even the way they hold their breath can tell us a lot.
It makes you realize how much we might be misinterpreting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that part of the video where they were talking about dogs apologizing to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like if one dog bows low to another, does that always mean submission?
It can, but it doesn't always. Think about it this way. Dogs, especially those living in groups, need ways to navigate their social hierarchy and avoid conflict.
Right.
So bowing could be a way of saying, hey, you're the boss, but it could also be a way of diffusing tension.
Okay.
Like, look, I'm no threat, let's just chill.
So similar to those appeasement gestures they use with us, it's about maintaining that pack harmony.
Exactly. And just like with their, apologies, to us, the context is crucial.
Right.
Who are they interacting with? What happened leading up to this interaction?
Right.
Are there any resources involved, like toys or food?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
The video also mentioned licking as a form of communication between dogs. And I always just thought that was like a sign of affection.
Affection is definitely a part of it,
Okay.
but it can also be a way of, grooming or soliciting attention or even showing deference.
Oh,
Like a puppy might lick an older dog's face as a sign of respect.
wow. So even something as simple as licking can have so many different meanings.
It can't. It's all about those subtleties.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've been focusing a lot on those moments, when things get a little tense,
Mhm.
but interdog communication can also be incredibly playful and joyful.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think about those zoomies around the park or the play bows, the gentle nipping. It's like they have their own secret language of fun.
They do. I love watching dogs play with each
Yeah.
other. It's just pure joy.
It is. And the more we understand that language, I think the more we can really appreciate the richness and the complexity of their social interactions.
Yeah, I'm starting to see my dog in a whole new light after all of this.
That's great.
But with all these subtle signals and, the different contexts,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel a little overwhelming.
Right.
Like, where do we even begin to learn this, doggish language?
That's a great question, and it's one that we're going to explore next because there are some fantastic resources out there that can help us, become fluent in canine communication.
Okay, good, because I need all the help I can get.
Right. It's really about paying attention, being curious, and approaching it all with a sense of wonder, After all, who wouldn't want to understand their furry friend better?
That's true. All right, so let's dive into those resources next and figure out how we can really start putting all this knowledge into practice.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've uncovered all these secrets, these growls and wags and all these little cues they give us. But how do we actually use this newfound knowledge?
Right.
Like practically.
Yeah.
Let's say, my dog does the classic move. He chews my favorite slippers,
Uh-huh.
and then he comes slinking over, tail tucked eyes, all droopy.
Yep.
How do I respond to that in a way that actually makes sense to him?
Well, first, I think you got to resist that urge to launch into a lecture.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, dogs are all about the present moment.
Okay.
They're not reliving that slipper chewing episode the way we might be.
So even though I'm internally screaming, those were my favorite slippers, like yelling at him is not going to do much good.
Exactly. He's not going to connect your anger to that past event.
Okay.
So instead, focus on what we were talking about before. Calmly acknowledge, his attempt to make things right.
Okay.
And then redirect him towards more appropriate behavior.
So, I see you're trying to say you're sorry, but slippers are off limits?
Yes.
Let's go play fetch instead.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect. A calm tone, a clear message, and a positive alternative.
Okay, I like that. And that's much more effective than, a delayed punishment that just confuses them.
Exactly.
What about when they bring you a toy after doing something they know they shouldn't?
Oh, yeah.
Is that like their way of saying, look, shiny object, distract yourself?
It's almost like a peace offering, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it goes a little deeper than just distraction.
Okay.
It's about shifting the energy. Remember, dogs thrive on positive interaction.
Right.
So bringing you a toy, it's their way of kind of inviting you back into that good place, that shared connection.
So even if I'm still annoyed about, the hole they just dug in the garden, taking a moment to play tug of war with that toy is actually reinforcing that positive bond.
Exactly. You're acknowledging their effort to smooth things over, and that builds trust and understanding.
Okay.
Of course, it doesn't mean you condone the digging.
Right.
This is where that consistency piece comes in.
Right, the boundaries. It's like with kids, sometimes you just got to say no, even when they give you the puppy dog eyes.
Exactly. Those boundaries are so important. And consistency is key.
Yeah.
So if jumping on the couch is never allowed, then don't waver, even if they try that adorable head tilt and whimper combo.
Oh, that's tough. It's tough to resist.
It is, but it's not about being mean. It's about, creating that predictable environment where they feel safe and secure.
Right. I get it. So it sounds like learning to speak dog isn't just about decoding their signals. It's about adjusting our own responses to be more dog-friendly.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. We need to meet them halfway. Consider their perspective and how they experience the world.
That's a good point.
And just like with any new language, it takes practice and patience and a willingness to make mistakes along the way.
Well, after this deep dive, I feel like I have a whole new understanding of my furry friend.
That's great.
I'm definitely going to be paying closer attention to those subtle cues and really trying to respond in a way that strengthens our bond.
And I think that's the heart of it, really. Building that relationship based on mutual understanding and respect. And who knows, you might even find yourself enjoying those apologies a little bit more, knowing that they come from a place of deep connection.
I think you're right. So to all you deep divers out there, remember, the next time your dog does something they shouldn't, take a breath. Observe their behavior and try to see the world through their eyes. You might be surprised at what you discover. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those tails wagging.